In today's video, we're gonna be talking about, drumroll please, okay, no drumroll, no drumroll. We're gonna be talking about Villisca Axe Murder House. Summary, basically, like, a whole family got killed by an axe person and, like, murdered by an axe, which is why they named it Axe Murder House. So, yeah. This is what it looks like, if you don't know already. This is what it looks like, and, like, a bunch of people went ghost hunting here, even Sammy Colby. Yeah! The best ghost hunters, in my opinion. Yep. Yeah, the Villisca Axe Murder House in Loa, or however you say it, is basically the site of I was thinking of a long word, but I don't want to say it. Notorious unsolved 1912 crime, where 8 people, the Joshua Moore family, and 2 guests were bludgeoned with an axe, basically murdered with an axe. Basically what the family looks like, and like everyone that was murdered in there. There's a girl behind me, but you can't see her because my avatar's in the way. Basically, apparently to the lore and everything that people are pointing at, is that the killer hid in this attic, like right there. And like, obviously, and they're like, you may be wondering, wait, if they were hiding in the attic, then how did no one see him? Because, like, there's no door. Well, there were clothes in front of it. Duh. Obviously, there's gonna be clothes in front of it. Because, like, right here is, like, a little closet area. And then, yeah, they're gonna have clothes and shit there and shit like that. That's basically how the killer hid, apparently. Let's talk about the crime. Between June 9th to June 10th, 1912, 6 members of the Moore family and 2 visiting Stillinger sisters were killed with an axe while sleeping. You may be wondering, well, how the hell did they get killed with an axe while sleeping? Shouldn't one of them have woken up or something with the killer walking around? I don't know. There were numerous suspects for being the killer, including a state senator and a traveler oh my god, I stuttered. Minister. Ooh. Holy, that stutter was crazy. Including a state senator and a traveling minister. The case remains officially unsolved. That was until Sam and Colby investigated and they figured it out. So if you want to know who it is, because I completely forgot, because like I watched this video like a while ago. I completely forgot who it was. So if you want to know who it is, watch their video. Sam and Colby, Axe Murder House. Yeah. Here's a better look of the newspaper, and like the killers down there, or suspects or something, whatever. But yeah, let's talk about the house. The house is located at 508 East 2nd Street in Villisca, Loa, Sam. The house was built in 1868. It was restored to its 1912 appearance in the 1990s by owners Darwin and Martha Lynn. A better look of the attic on the inside and stuff like that, so yeah. Now, there is seen to be a lot of paranormal activity during, like, tours and, like, just tours. Like, scratching and balls rolling on the ground. Okay, shut up. The house is considered highly haunted, with visitors reporting children's voices, falling objects, and feeling of being watched. Along with scratches, like I said. I feel There's one popular theory explored in the books of The Man from the Train. Suggests the murders were part of a string of killing committed by an unknown serial killer. That's interesting. They were all dead from late night to early morning. That's crazy, if you ask me myself. No one noticed for that long? I mean, yeah, late night, I can understand. People would think they're sleeping. But, like, what? Police and everything, brain fart, sorry. Police and everything contradicted this as mass murder and home invasion. Because it clearly was. So, why am I just now realizing? Because, like, whenever I look this stuff up, yes, I look up all my information. At least ones that everyone knows about. So that then later on, I can talk about it. So, yes, I did. But why the hell did it say 0 for people that are injured? It should count as 8 because 8 people died. Yeah, the perpetrator, Henry Lee Moore, heavily theorized. So, yeah, that's it. But they couldn't find the killer, so obviously the motive was unknown. And if anyone is worried about this killer, are you stupid? They're obviously dead by now. This was in 1912. Or they're like really, 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 really old. Accused murder was Rev. George Kelly. Split spat. That actually was. Anyway, not guilty. Second trial, not guilty. But you never know. People were stupid back then, so. But yes, the victims consisted of parents Joshua. Hey, Joshua. Sorry, I had to say it. The victims of the parents Joshua B., aged 43, and Sarah, of Montgomery, age 39, and their 4 children, Herman oh, that's a long name. Ooh, I forgot. 4 children, Herman Montgomery, age 11, Mary Catherine, age 10, Arthur Boyd, age 7, and Paul Vernon, age 5. An affluent family, the Moores were well known and well liked in their community. On June 9th, 1912, Mary Catherine Moore invited Ina May, age 8, and Lena Gertrude Stillingler, age 11, to spend the night at the Moore residence. That evening, the visiting girls and the Moore family attended a Presbyterian church, where they participated in the Children's Day program, which Sarah had coordinated. After the program ended at 9:30 p.m., the Moores and the Stillingers sisters. At 9:30 p.m., oh shit, I already said that. Wow. At 9:30 p.m., the Moores and the Stillinger sisters walked to the Moores' house, arriving between 9:45 and 10 p.m. Okay, now let's talk about the discovery of all their deaths, man. Alright, at 7 a.m. the next day, June 10th, Mary Peckham, the Moores' neighbor, became concerned after she noticed the family had not come out to do their morning chores, which they always do, so it would be odd if they didn't. Peckham knocked on the door, and nobody answered, so she tried to open the door and discovered that it was locked. Peckham let the Moore's chickens out and called Ross Moore, Josiah's brother, like Peckham. Moore received no response. When he knocked on the door and shouted, Ross unlocked the front door with his copy of the house key, while Peckham stood on the porch. Ross went into the parlor and opened the guest bedroom door, where he found Ina and Lena Stillinger, bodies on the bed. Moore immediately told Peckham and call Henry Hank, quote-unquote Hank, Horton, Villisca's primary peace officer, who arrived shortly thereafter. Horton's search of the house revealed that the entire Moore family and the two Stillinger sisters had been technically dead. The murder weapon, an axe belonging to Josiah, was found in the guest room where the Stillinger sisters were found. Oh. Doctors concluded that the murders had taken place between midnight and 5 a.m. 2 spent cigarettes in the attic suggested that the killer or killers patiently waited. Yes, they found 2 spent cigarettes. 2. That could be from anyone, but 2. That they found in the attic, the one that I showed you earlier. And either that the killer or killers patiently waited. Yes, there could be 2. According to the official tour, there were no cigarettes found. There's no cigarettes found in the official tour, so whatever. In the attic until the Moore family and the Stillinger guest were asleep. Yes, he waited and waited until they were asleep. What a weirdo. I have no pictures of the master bedroom, so I'm just gonna show where the Stillinger girl slept. So, yeah. But, the killer began in the master bedroom, where Josiah and Sarah Moore were sleeping. Josiah received more blows from the axe than any other victim. His face has been cut to such an extent that his eyes were completely destroyed. Holy. The ceiling in his room also had a gouge mark from when the murderer lifted the axe to murder him or something like that. I don't know. The killer only used the blade of the axe on Josiah, while using the blunt end on the rest of the victims. Ooh, so, there's a grudge against Josiah. There's a grudge against Josiah. A full grudge, apparently. Okay. Herman, Mary Catherine, Arthur, and Paul were next killed in the head in the same manner as their parents. Holy. Afterwards, the murderer returned to the master bedroom to inflict more blows on the elder Moores, knocked over a shoe that had filled with blood from the previous attack before moving downstairs to the guest bedroom and killing Ina and Lena. Seemingly afterwards, a 4-pound slab of bacon was taken out of the icebox and laid next to the axe. Investigators also found untouched food and bloody water in the kitchen table during the search. Gross. Investigators believe that all of the victims, except for Lena Stillinger, had been asleep when murdered. They thought that she was awake and tried to fight back as she was found lying crosswise on the bed with a defensive wound on her arm. Lena was lying on her stomach, her posterior in the air. Right. Lena's body had also been moved and her undergarments removed as well. Her leg had been positioned in such a way to reveal her, you know what. This led to law enforcement speculating that the killer sexually molested her or attempted to do so. Later investigations showed no evidence of this. Poor girl. That poor girl. That poor little girl. What did she ever do to deserve that? Was she really that pretty? I don't think so. But it does say that one of the investigators was a molester. So, well, not investigators, shit. One of the suspects was, like, a molester. So, like, stop. Another bizarre twist, every mirror in the house was covered with blankets, clothing, or any means of covering. Garments were removed from the dressers and to cover the mirrors. But why the hell would they cover the mirror? Like, see right there. You see the, like, desk by the bed or whatever? The green one? Like, in front of it? Yeah, that's a mirror, and there's something over it. Like that, right there. But yeah, after the search of the house, people were let into the house to view the scene at around 8:40 a.m. The town's central telephone office issued an all-call alert advising every household in the town of the murders. Within minutes, the house was rushed by townsfolk and, like, just, holy shit. This completely contaminated. This completely contaminated the scene, with some people even stealing pieces of Joshua's skull as souvenirs. Ugh. You hear this shit? Daddy. The murder weapon was handled by hundreds that came through the house. The sheriff was unable to gain control of the scene for hours. How many hours, though? The county coroner, Dr. Lindquist, arrived at the scene of the crime at approximately 9 a.m. After viewing the scene himself, he met with Horton, who had been the town's night watchman that Sunday, and Sheriff Orrin Jackson to review the information they had collected. Lindquist was upset by the constant influx of townsfolk interfering with the investigation and urged the sheriff to get the National Guard to secure the scene. By 10:30 a.m., the National Guard had established a secure perimeter to keep people out. Keep out! A local druggist whose hobby was photography showed up to take photos, but he was dismissed and told taking photos was too ghoulish. What an asshole. He may have had an economic motive. Many drugstores sold postcards of crime scenes at the time. Who does that? Who does that? Anyways, although Lindquist called members of the coroner's jury together in late afternoon, it was several hours before they entered the Moore home to view the bodies. After 10 p.m., he called County Attorney Ratcliffe to finally give permission to the undertaker to remove them. The fire station had been set up as a temporary morgue. And it was closed at 2 a.m. before all the bodies had been transferred, or in this case transported, I guess, transported there, likely around 24 hours after the murders occurred. What a dumbass. It was estimated the murders occurred between midnight and 2 a.m. The victims' autopsies revealed... Am I out of the frame? I was! Oh my god. Let's redo that part. Doctors estimated the murders occurred between midnight and 2 a.m. The victims' autopsies revealed all died from severe head trauma. That's a lie. Some wondered how a murderer could maneuver in an impact. Like what? Can maneuver in a compact, creaking farmhouse without waking anyone. That's what I said at the beginning. At the time, newspapers proffered a theory that the murderer put a sedative in milk or cocaine eaten by the family. But toxicology students weren't a routine part of autopsies at the time. So, nope, that's off the list. Check off. Anyway, investigators found an imprint in the hay in the barn next to a nozzle, where they believe the killer observed the family for some time. 2 spent cigarettes found in the attic suggested the murderer could have entered the house via a window or unlocked back door and hid until the family returned from church. Or a back door? Why didn't that family lock the back door too? What? Anyways, 2 curious bits of evidence were uncovered. A gas lamp with its glass chimney removed and its wick turned down so it would give off only the faintest bit of light, was discovered upstairs. A fragment of a keychain. What? I just turned British. What the? A fragment of a keychain not belonging to any member of the Moore family was found downstairs. Possibly the killers? Maybe. After the limited investigation, the coroner held an inquest the next day, June 11th, 1912, where 13 people were interviewed as a potential witness. That's nice. Now, after this, let's get on to the suspect. Let's get on with the suspects. Alright. Over time, many possible suspects emerged, including Reverend George Kelly, like I said at the beginning, Frank F. Jones, William Mansfield, Loving Mitchell, Paul Miller, and Henry Lee Moore. No relation. Kelly was tried twice for the murder. The first trial ended in a hung jury, while the second ended in an acquittal. Other suspects in the investigation were also exonerated. By the way, I'm gonna spoil it here. It was George Kelly. Andrew Sawyer, a prime suspect. Every transient and otherwise unaccounted for stranger was a suspect in the murders. Andrew Sawyer was one of those people. He was interrogated but not charged. He was obsessed with the murders and slept fully clothed as if he was ready to make a clean getaway, and he also slept with an ex by his bed. Which made it simple he would be a suspect, obviously. Next person. Reverend George Kelly. Kelly was an English-born traveler minister in town of the night of the murders. Kelly was described as peculiar, reportedly having suffered a mental breakdown as an adolescent. Ooh, girl. As an adult, he was accused of peeping and several times asking young women and girls to pose nude for him. Like I said before, he was a little nasty boy. Anyways, On June 8th, 1912, he came to Villisca to teach at the Children's Day services. Seems suspicious to me. Which the Moore family attended on June 9th. Really sus. 1912. He left town between 5 a.m. and 5:50 a.m. on June 10th, 1912, hours before the bodies were discovered. Reverend Kelly had confessed to the murders in court, but the jury did not believe his confession. Told you he wasn't! In the weeks that followed, he displayed a fascination with the case and wrote many letters to the police, investigators, and family of the deceased. What the fuck? This aroused suspicion, and a private investigator wrote back to Reverend Kelly asking for details that the minister might know about the murders. Kelly replied with a great detail, claiming to have heard sounds and possibly witnessed the murder. Of course you witnessed it. You did it. Anyways, his own mental illness made authorities question whether he knew the details because of having committed the murders or was imagining his account. Really? In 1914, 2 years after the murders, Kelly was arrested for sending obscene material through the mail. He was sexually harassing a woman who applied for a job as his secretary. That's why. Anyways, he was sent to St. Elizabeth's Hospital, or St. Elizabeth's Hospital, one of the two. The National Mental Hospital in Washington, D.C. Investigators speculated again that Kelly could be the murderer of the Moore family. He was! Along with another suspect. Frank F. Jones. Frank Fernando Jones was a Villisca resident and Iowa State Senator. Josiah Moore had worked for Frank Jones at his implement store for many years before leaving to open his own store. Moore reportedly took business away from Jones, including a very successful John Deere dealership. Moore was rumored to have had a sexual affair with Jones' daughter-in-law, though no evidence supports this. That's nasty. But anyway, let's go on with the next one, shall we? William Mansfield. Another theory was that Senator Jones hired William Insane Blackie, quote-unquote. Mansfield, an ex-convict and former U.S. Army soldier stationed at Fort Leavenworth, to murder the Moore family. 9 months before the murders at Villisca, a similar case of axe murder occurred in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Okay. 2 axe murder cases followed in Ellsworth, Kansas. Oh, not Ellsworth, Kansas. Ellsworth, Kansas, and Pola, Kansas. The cases were similar enough to raise the possibility of having been committed by the same person. Other murders reported as possibly being linked to these crimes include the numerous unsolved axe murders along the Southern Pacific Railroad from 1911 to 1912. The unsolved Axeman of New Orleans killings, as well as several other such murders during the time period. Ooh! The murders in Colorado Springs were closely related in execution to those in the Moore house. Ooh. H.C. Wayne, his wife and child, and Mrs. A.J. Burnham were found dead, murdered with axes, or an axe. Bed sheets were used to cover the windows to prevent passerby from looking in at the Moore house. The murderer hung aprons and skirts to cover the windows. As in the murders in Villisca, the murderer in Coronado Springs wiped the blood off his axe and covered the heads of the victims with bedcloths. That's weird. Anyways, Mansfield was also the prime suspect of the Burns Detective Agency of Kansas City and Detective James Newton Wickerson, who suggested that he was a cocaine-addicted serial killer. Wow. According to the contemporary news reports, Wilkerson believed Mansfield was responsible for the axe murders of his wife, infant child, father-in-law, and mother-in-law in Blue Island, Illinois. What? Anyway, on July 5th, 1914, 2 years after the Villisca murders, the axe murders committed in Paola? I think, what type of Spanish word is that? Oh well, Kansas, 4 days before the Villisca murders and the murders of Jenny Peterson and Jenny Miller in Aurora, Illinois. Ooh. Guys, that's a good place to investigate if you're a ghost hunter. According to Wickerson's investigation, all the murders were committed in precisely the same committed them. The same manner, indicating that the same man probably committed them. Wickerson stated that he could prove the Mansfield was present in each of the differing crime scenes on the night of the murders. In each murder, the victims were hacked to death with an axe, and the mirrors in the homes were covered. A burning lamp in the chimney off was left at the foot of the bed, and a basin in which the murderer washed was found in the kitchen. In each case, the murderer avoided leaving fingerprints by wearing gloves, which Wickerson believed was strong evidence that the man was Mansfield, who knew his fingerprints were on file at the federal military prison at Leavenworth. Yes. Wilkerson managed to convince a grand jury to open an investigation in 1916, and Mansfield was arrested and brought to Montgomery County from Kansas City. Payroll records, however, provided an alibi that placed Mansfield in Illinois at the time of the Villisca murders. He was released for a lack of evidence and later won a lawsuit he brought against Wilkerson and was awarded $2,225. Oh my gosh. Wilkerson believed that pressure from Jones resulted not only in Mansfield's release, but also in a subsequent arrest and trial for Reverend Kelly. Oh yeah, man. However, R.H. Thorpe, a restaurant owner from Shenandoah, identified Mansfield as the man he saw the morning after the Villisca murders boarding a train in Clarinda. This man said he had walked from Villisca. If proven to be true, the testimony would disprove Mansfield's alibi. Furthermore, it was reported that a Mrs. Vina Tompkins of Marshalltown was on her way to testify that she heard 3 men in the woods plotting the murder of the Moore family a short time before the killings. Henry Lee Moore? Maybe. Alright, next one. Henry Lee Moore. Yep, you got that. You got that right. Henry Lee Moore was a suspected serial killer. He was not related to the Slan Moore family, alright? Who was convicted of who was convicted of the murder of his mother and grandmother several months after the murders in Villisca. His weapon of choice being an axe. Before and after the murders in Villisca, the very similar axe murders of his mother and grandmother were committed, and all of the cases showed striking similarities, leading to strong suspicion that some or all of the crimes were committed by an axe-murdering serial killer. And just like Blackie, quote-unquote, Mansfield, the axe-murdering Henry Moore can also be considered a suspect in some of these things, I guess. Well, let's go on to Samuel E. Moyer. At the inquest, it was reported that Samuel Elias Moyer, Josiah's brother-in-law, often threatened to kill Josiah Moore. However, upon further investigation, Moyer's alibi cleared him for the crime. So, it's obviously Kelly. I know. These other people talking are pointless, but just bear with me. Now, Paul Mueller, or Miller, whatever. In their 2017 book, The Man from the Train, Bill James and his daughter Rachel McCarthy James discuss the Villisca murders as part of a much larger series of murders which they believe were all committed by a single killer. They concluded the murder was Paul Miller, an immigrant, possibly from Germany, who was the subject of an unsuccessful year-long manhunt as the sole suspect in the 1897 murder of a family in West Brookfield, Massachusetts, who had employed him as a farmhand. Now, let's talk about the house. Today, the house is a tourist destination in the small, rural, Loa town of Villisca. As you can tell, Villisca, ex-murder house, obviously. A couple had purchased the home in 1995. Yes, a couple had purchased the home in 1995, okay? And undone all the modern renovations to the house, restoring it to 1912 condition. The couple now offers tours and overnight stays in the house. Its selling point is that the house is now haunted because of the events that occurred in it. Obviously. Well, there's also one more. Billy the Axeman. And no, not Billy from Stranger Things. An unidentified American serial killer. But yeah, that's all. So, hopefully you guys learned something from this, I guess. But, yeah, I suppose this is, like, my longest video yet with my avatar. Like, yes, I made a Roblox video, okay, but it was kind of bad. So, yeah, that's it. Bye, Pipsqueaks. Have a nice and juicy day.